Thank you. Yeah, it's a true story. After this this meetup, I thought that you know, he didn't even say a sentence to me, and then a few hours he invited me for a meetup in Vienna, and I was like, that's embarrassing. Yeah. I will be talking about code quality tonight, and I will be also showing you what can we do with our new product that we are trying to get to the market. There is a Slido QR code. Please use it. I will make it better. If you don't have it already, we'll wait a few seconds. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions. I have a lot to show and a lot to say. I don't think that I will make it, you know, to show everything. So at some point they will cut me off, and that means that if you are still interested, we can talk about it, you know, later in the evening. I don't care. So just approach me, and it's fine. Let's start. What is technical debt? It is very easy to understand for technical people what technical debt is, and it is very hard to understand for non-technical people what the technical debt is. I try to explain it in a way that you tell a non-tech person, like, imagine that you have a sink full of, you know, dishes and cutlery, and you just, you know, keep on adding, and at some point there is, you know, so much that you cannot even wash the dishes anymore because there is so much technical debt. So that's something where I like to imagine it, and suddenly people start to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So if you have enough of debt that, you know, it starts to be so critical that you cannot even repay it. There are things that you can do. Most of them include watching the technical debt, trying to keep it under control, and second thing is improving. Improving is hard, especially when you don't know what to improve. There are tools to help you, existing pretty great tools for tech quality monitoring. And if you do tech quality monitoring correctly, or, you know, good enough, you probably have some kind of automation set up. One of the most used automations right now, I would even say thanks to Angular, like in our community, definitely thanks to Angular, is that it ships with ESLint, or previously TSLint, and that means that every new Angular project is with static analysis, and you can focus on actually, you know, trying to keep it in a reasonable state. So, ESLint, obviously, what is it? It is a very neat tool that was created for JavaScript. Later on, it adopted all the TypeScript rules, and it ensures that you ship consistent code and try to prevent bugs. You know, there are many presets. It is very pluggable, and these presets includes TypeScript, it includes Angular. There is actually like officially maintained Angular repository with rules that allow you to, for example, check, you know, what the modern Angular should look like. We will showcase that later, how we can use these rules. It is very easy to write your own. Creating a new ESLint rule is very simple, not a huge rocket science. And I would even say, not sure if we are able to make it, but you can prompt a ChatGPT to create you a rule, and it will literally work. Like, I do that often. I'm like, okay, this is something I want to check. Last time I did an inject migration, and I was like, there is no rule for checking if I use inject or constructor parameters. I just told ChatGPT to create me a rule, and there I have it. It now works, and now follows, you know, everything. Yeah, so it's quite easy, and there is no reason why you shouldn't have a properly set up ESLint in your project. Many things are auto-fixable, or provide, you know, good enough suggestions that you are able to fix it. How to get most of it? So you should have the linter set up. You know, it should pass, even if it's, you know, not actually telling you anything important. It is quite important that it passes eventually, with warnings at least. So sometimes the people are caught up with linters as formatters. So that is not something that you should really do, because the stylistic and formatting rules are now deprecated. They recognize that that is not a good idea to yell at developers that they are missing a space or have too many new lines. What should be used is prettier, or some alternative that actually does the formatting, never lint something that you can format. And there is many already prepared presets that you can start extending. It's not just TypeScript recommended, there is many more. We ourselves maintain a repository with a lot of presets curated to the frameworks, so they, Svelte has its own preset, Angular has its own preset, Cypress has its own preset, and we maintain these rules, extending others. It is very opinionated, and it should be. Every project is different, so it is nice when it is opinionated. You should be able to configure what you want. And you should put in this effort, because it pays off in the long run. So what can you do? You can potentially semi-automate all the reviews. There is complexity that comes in with every code. And if code is complex, it is very hard to maintain, and basically it is said that most of the developers burned out because of the complex code they have to maintain. They do not even know where to touch, what can break. They are not confident in shipping new features, so they basically, switch jobs. You don't want that to happen, so you try to do something about it. Yeah. If you violate principles, well-known principles, single responsibility, it can be quite hard to actually maintain the code base. So there are things that you can do about the complexity. And I will just list the rules, because we do not have enough time to go through all of it, so sorry for this. There is a bunch of rules that you can start using. Most of them are already in the TypeScript recommended, so you are probably using them if you have everything configured. The cyclomatic complexity from the Angular ESLint is especially nice one, because that offers you the same complexity you would normally check in TypeScript, but for templates in Angular. So it tells you when the template is too complicated to keep the way that you have it. There's type safety, a huge thing. Who wants, or would you say that your project is type safe? Yeah, who has no any rule set up? Who is like passing no any? You can have few, okay, I've seen 2 hands. Beautiful. So it's a safety hole. Of course, sometimes you need the any type, but in most of the places you don't need it. And the worst thing is when people put it there just so they override something that TypeScript would natively pick up from the return type or something. So it is a hole that actually leaks through all of the code base. Like once you have it in one weird place, suddenly everything that uses is not safe and shouldn't be like that. So it's quite important to track it. You can combine some of the any or type rules with compiler flags. For example, no implicit any as a compiler flag. And something that we eventually want to come up as a plugin in code-pushup is that we would be able to run the compiler flags separately. Because currently, if you set strict in your TypeScript config, you will fail your build, and you will never be able to ship a feature with failing build. But what eventually you will be able to do with us is that you will get a report of what you have to fix before you can flip a switch on strict. Yeah, there is a lot of information in these type safety rules. Unfortunately, many of them don't have the fixes. Some do, but you at least get the information on what should be happening. And there are some framework-specific best practices. I already told you, we also maintain some stuff, but Angular and RxJS is quite important. Again, set up by default in many presets. You can follow the deprecation every time there is a new deprecated API after update. You will get a notification in your lint that you should not be using it anymore, that you shouldn't nest subscribes, that you shouldn't use take until in an unsafe way, because unless you put take until as your last thing in pipe, it is it can leak memory because it has to be last parameter. And many people do not know that and put it as a first or somewhere in the middle. Yeah, there is a rule for it. There are others. Again, sorry for this. I do not have time to explain them all. It was not planned as 30 minutes. Architecture. You can lint your architecture. NX is doing a great job providing you with some base of what you can do there, and I very much like it. You can enforce the boundaries, and you can also create something like this. I'm not sure if it's readable, but I will explain. You can restrict imports and create something that will be a path saying dump components, and that means that if in any library or app you have a folder dump components, that's where only dump components should live, and dump component should never import from HTTP router, have NGRX store, because it should only communicate by inputs. So that's how you can enforce this and have a pretty nice standard where, you know, it's not you in a review yelling on someone, it's the computer yelling, so that's fine. Okay, how strict should you be in CI? I don't like when CI is failing. Most of the people don't like it. Why? Because when it just fails and doesn't do anything of the jobs you would expect it to do, for example, deploy a preview, give you some kind of, you know, other information that is useful, it's not good. So when you have large code bases, it is almost impossible to start adopting new strict rules. Why? Obviously, because if you add the rule, what is it, like 16,000 new issues? Like there was a project that I added a new audit to, like a lint rule, and I realized that I have to go to the portal application, and in the cart I have to make the space for the number bigger because it could not fit there. It was like 100,000 errors or something. So too many things can happen at once, and most of them of the stricter rules are not auto-fixable, so you cannot add a rule and automatically fix. People are putting workarounds in the CI, and one of the worst things is to just set a warning, so we see it in IDE or CI, but what starts to happen is that everybody ignores it, nobody cares, and you will eventually end up with a very long running non-skippable CI that nobody actually fixes. Or you temporarily disable and then find this comment after 2 years and nobody switches it on anymore. So what can you do about it? Well, it is very difficult to track. If you don't track the new code that you are adding, then how can you possibly, you know, fix something and create a better code base? If you have audits on your packages, you know, npm audit or anything that tracks vulnerabilities, it's the same problem. So you put an npm audit into the CI, which, you know, runs regularly on each of the pull requests. Most of the time it fails. It is not fixable because there is not a new release on that package you are using, or it is not in scope of what you are doing. It's outside of your control. Many people at the same time start fixing the same pull request or, you know, different pull requests. So you are basically wasting a lot of money on, you know, having a parallel work on same audit. And there are alternatives that do not really give justice to how it should be used in Angular or in NX because they don't run the migration. So dependent bot is nice, but not really usable in our cases. So again, something that is a problem you can somehow fix later on. Bundle size. Angular has bundle size as a metric for, you know, load time performance. It's quite important to have a small bundle. But the thing is that once you configure the limit in Angular JSON, it starts failing at some point. And I'm not sure how many of you like how it currently works in Angular, but I sure don't. And I don't because I've never been in a state where it was actually useful. Like when it catches something, it usually just fails at the third pull request after something that breaks, you know? Or you get into that state where you cross the limit by 1 kilobyte and you have to bump another megabyte, because if you don't, then there are 7 other pull requests that will start failing right after you bump and you have conflicts. It's not good. So yeah, again, something that should not be probably tracked there, and second of all, it should never fail your build. I wouldn't say that something like that should fail a build. There is not an option for warning. It fails. And the thing is that imagine that you try to ship a preview, but your whole build fails, and you don't even see the preview, so you cannot inspect the bundles. You are working on a project that takes 17 minutes to build on production, and you have to, locally start building the whole thing in production modes so you actually see the bundles. Where you could go to the deployed preview and instantly see with, Webpack Analyzer or something, this is where the problem is, and I have the warning, and I have a comment on pull request, for example. And so all of these developer experience improvements could happen with all of the audits that you can potentially track. Lighthouse, same thing. Like, it can fail randomly, not even your fault, something happened along the way. Sorry, introducing code push-up. What we try to do is that we are creating a solution that is able to integrate many tools, existing tools. We are not trying to replace ESLint, we are not trying to replace Lighthouse, code coverage, whatever. We are taking the tools that you already have in your stack, that already have a pretty good output, they are pretty well maintained, and we are wrapping them. We are wrapping them in a way where if it has a machine-readable output, we can put it into audit. We have our own special audit structure with weights, with calculated values. That is not so important. You just feed it the output and it does the magic. You can then compare everything between commits, because you will get an update on each of the commits and you can see all the changes. It will never block your CI, and everything that we are currently shipping is open sourced. So you can find it. Either we maintain the plugin or there is a community behind it. And we already have a few customers that actually ship their community plugins. Like there was a case where DevOps engineer created an Elixir plugin in like 20 minutes, and I was like, what? Who uses Elixir in production? Yeah. So yeah, everything is possible. It is very flexible, and we like to say that we are highly customizable. Like, you can configure everything. You can decide to start, tracking the syntax like on the README, or I don't know, and you can probably create a easy plugin for it. So whatever you desire. And the portal, the thing that we live off, that's why we eventually do it. That's what is paid. That's where we get our money, because we are actually hosting and providing you with the reports, progress, trends, and all the nice features for the management. Not for the developers. I'm joking. Developers actually like it, because I heard that it's the missing UI for the ESLint, because ESLint doesn't have the UI. Well, now it does. This is what you will see. It's not very visible, but this is eventually what you will see in the local or CI execution. A list of things that happened with the values, with the information. This is the final list of categories that happened, and there is a bunch of plugins, like a lot of them. We are actively working on new stuff, and yeah, we have Lighthouse, we have ESLint, we have all the package managers that are widely used and support the auditing or outdated packages. Yeah, it's getting there that we are on pair with most of the existing solutions. So what you can do with the plugins? You can register your own plugins, and they evaluate their own audits. It gives you the score, 1 to 100, and it gives you the value, number or something, plus whatever it should display as a format. You will get details, because then we can show you a preview of source code, for example, and you will get a nice comprehensive update on what was happening, what started to appearing on your code, and yeah, you can closely inspect each time. We have a bunch of categories. Categories are the highest level that you can create for the overview. And we use categories in a way where we actually name something, some weighted average of audits called results, and create human understandable categories. The formula for the calculation is highly configurable, and you can combine multiple reports to the category. So then something like this can happen, that you will have a separate performance, security, accessibility checks. You will have a check if you are PVA compatible. You have some SEO checks on each of the builds. From Lighthouse, you check how much of your application is actually translated. You have test coverage there, everything at one place. Yeah, we replace multiple products. Yeah, the money talk. So if you are already paying for Sonar, CodeCaf, Lighthouse CI, or whatever other tests run the dashboard, we can probably do that for cheaper price. How do you set it up? You set it up pretty easily. Install. I will not go through all of the commands. Configure with a TypeScript file. Run the code push-up either in CI or locally. If you are on GitHub, you can just use our action. It will work like that. And you are starting to get reports and automated comparisons on each of the commands, on every PR. Here is a custom plugin example. I'm sorry, it is not that readable, but this is how you can hack together a way that you will track a migration from JavaScript to TypeScript. You create a custom piece of code, one JavaScript function that checks the extensions of your files and tell you how much of your code base is already migrated to TypeScript. It's not very clever, but it is something where you can start, and then you can start adding more and more. Often customers create these custom plugins to start checking things like migrating to somewhere. For example, Michael had a great talk on how we helped a customer to migrate to NX monorepo because they created a custom checks for a folder structure and everything for that specific case, and then migrated a lot of projects into one single monorepo. Similar thing when they were trying to migrate from custom components and styles to a design system. Basically a simple check that tells you, yes, now this library or this app already uses the design system. You can delete the styles imports for the old old UI library, and that means that you are effectively bringing your bundle size down, and you know that it is not broken because you do not have an import to that or usage of that CSS anymore. I would like to shout out to my colleague Matej, because who was on the yesterday's speaker dinner know that the CI and a lot of stuff was broken yesterday because of some GitHub actions issues, and he managed to wake up today and fix everything for me while I was creating the slides, and all of the things about the informations for the lint rules. He's doing all the research behind it, and he's actually the one maintaining the presets that we have for all of the frameworks, including like new cool kit in town, Svelte. Yeah, it's pretty nice. So thank you. And now I can show you the demo of how it looks finally. Yeah, so how many minutes I have? 5. Beautiful. Almost spot on. So 7 more? Beautiful. So I created this demo. Yeah? You probably recognize the shape, whatever it is. It is a clone of DevTop, like the block platform. Yeah? I took something that was created 6 years ago in Angular 12 and updated it to newest Angular. And as I was doing all the migrations, I put it into NX monorepo. I do all the interesting stuff, all the lint fixes. Every time I was creating, a new commit, or new commits of something like finished migration or fixed lint issues, I did a record of that report, so you could see how much it tracked stuff and what was going on there. So that's an explanation on what I'm going to actually show you. So there is the Wi-Fi is not so. I'm not on the Wi-Fi. Okay, maybe this will work. Okay, let's stay here. So this is the dashboard of the actual project. We can see that we have ESLint and JS package is running as a plugin. We can see that this is my last commit, migrate output, where I run the migrate output migration for the old decorator to go to a new output function. And I have a bunch of categories. The most interesting ones that I created just for the purpose of this repository, for this demo, is modern Angular and type safety. So what is modern Angular? Let's have a look. We can see that there are 8 audits running in modern Angular, that the trend of the score went up 66 points because I fixed a bunch of stuff. And this is the calculation. So I can see that almost 1/4 of the whole score is ensuring that everything is standalone. And second thing is that I'm actually using new control flow. Yeah? So I have a check for that from ESLint. And everything else that is failing, it's telling me, I have a bunch of change detection set that is not set to on push. I should probably be using the on push. And even if I'm not for current components, I should create the new ones with on push, preferably. So I have report on every case that doesn't have the on push. I can click view in GitHub and see it there. I can go to my IDE, directly fix it. I have the preview. I have the score change. Everything is there. Yeah. If there is anything else that you would like to see or add, you just put a single new rule into your configuration, and it picks it up. And it even works in a way where you don't have to have a different configs for ESLint and for us, because we just pick up the ESLint config. And what many people start doing or stop doing is actually running the lint in the CI in a way that it starts failing things, because they now get a report back on the pull request. And the report looks something like this. You can see it's a comment on GitHub or GitLab, but this one is GitHub. And you will get all the categories. If you are interested in what actually happened inside, you can see what are the exact changes, what audits have changed separately, that the branch coverage is now better in the code coverage, that you are not adding, like we actually enforce immutable code in this repository, and someone decided that he will not follow that, so we added 16 more or 10 more warnings. If you like to see more and identify what is the actual thing going on there, you can click on the portal link, have a full-size comparison of what was happening between these two commits. That's something that you can do at any point of time. You can decide that you will be like, what's a difference on all of the categories between version that I have currently released and the state we were half a year ago. You can set it up, it will do the diff, and you can literally go through the whole diff. Same way as you inspect code, you can inspect, this is how much your time to interactive went up and down. This is how much you influenced your IMP in the last half a year. This is how much you added or subtracted code coverage. Even things like if you don't know how to properly set code coverage thresholds for your whole project, we support it in a way where every lib of your NX monorepo can have different code coverage threshold. So it will be, if there is an important lib that everything uses, you set the coverage to very high, 80, and then it's green on 80. If it's a front-end app that you do not cover that much, you can set it to 10, so at least your pipes are covered. It's pretty nice, because then you are actually actively encouraged to make code better, incrementally improve. Yeah. If there will be anything else that you are interested in, you can, as I said, catch me up later, and I will try to answer everything that I can, or I can show you more from the demo, because frankly, I spent 4 days migrating the project and I don't have the time to show you everything. I would like to end with less technical debt, happier devs. Observability is the key. If you don't measure and observe what you are doing, then you are basically going blind and you have no idea what you are doing. So it's not only about keeping track of ESLint or keeping track of how Lighthouse is scoring you, but it is about knowing what happened, when, who introduced it, you know. Obviously, like, you know, some of, I'm not sure how many, but some of us are managers, so we have to know these things. And most of all, and most importantly, you can improve incrementally. There is like a scout rule that you should leave the fire pit in a better state than you found it. So it should work like that with new code, because every new code you will be adding can be subjected to a much higher standard than what is already existing. And then when you eventually have a free time in your sprint and you are like, what should I fix? You can go to the audit, you can sort it by the, I don't know, highest or biggest occurrence, and you can just pick these 40 lint errors and ship it, and the score will go down, and it will, or sorry, up. The and it will all be nice, and you know, people will be praising you for getting a better category score, and it's like a gamification. I will ask you to give us a star on GitHub, because that's something that we really like to see, that people give us a nice GitHub stars. There are certainly things like GitHub stars-driven development. People choose tools based on that. So thank you very much.